Good evening, and welcome to season 2 of Mental Moments. Hey, everybody on Instagram. It's your girl Natasha and my girl Malira Green here, and we are back for season 2. Yay! So we are super stoked, super excited. Now, listen, y'all. We're using a different platform, okay? So we're trying to move away from using just straight Instagram, but we're also using another software so that we can reach the masses as we share with you everything as it relates to our mental stability and our mental wealth. So welcome to our first episode of season 2. And tonight, Malira, what are we talking about tonight?
Tonight, we're going to be talking about teen dating violence. We do understand that Valentine's Day is coming up, but there are a lot of our teens right now that are looking for love, and sometimes they find it in the wrong places. So we are super excited tonight to shed light on something that many do not talk about. We hear about domestic violence when it comes to adults and women, but what about our young girls? What about our young men? And what does it look like in our school system? So I hope you guys are ready. Sit back, relax, get ready to ask some questions. I know we have our regular followers on Instagram, but you can now also find us on YouTube on Natasha Barnes-Owens page, as well as on Facebook on Natasha's Barnes-Owens page as well. So I'm just excited to shed light on something that is super duper important so we can save our young people.
Absolutely. So listen, everybody, tonight, we have a really special guest. First and foremost, I don't even think Malira knows this, but this young lady who we are about to bring forth and share with the audience, I met her over, maybe about, I don't know, maybe like 15 years ago, something like that, in Maryland. I was new to the area, and I was teaching at Gwen Park High School in Brandywine, Maryland, and she was my principal. And when I tell you, I so love her. Now, I, we have so many stories that we could possibly tell y'all, but we're not even going to do that tonight. But we had an awesome time. She was such a great administrator. She was loved by the students as well as the faculty members. She was no nonsense, but she also had a heart and a passion for the children, and she listened to them, and she had a great rapport with them. So let me just share a little bit about her. She is a prominent educator. She's a coach. She's an advocate. She's a mentor. She's a rising star in the Prince George's County public school system. She's a part of the board. So once she comes on, she is going to share a little bit about herself. And then we're going to just dive right on in to this conversation, which is very pressing. So without further ado, Dr. Carletta Marrow. Hi, Dr. Marrow. How are you?
All right. How are you today?
We are doing great. First and foremost, I want to say thank you for saying yes. We know that our children, we know, the cliche or the statement that they say children are our future and all that good stuff, but they really are, because these kids are going to be operating on us. They're going to be our dentists. They're going to be, our physicians, all of that, electrician. So it is paramount that we shed light on a situation, or the situation of teens and dating. And I don't know about you, my audience, and on Instagram and Facebook and everywhere else, and YouTube, but teens today are not like the teens of yesteryear, right? But before we even go all the way into that, because I'm just so excited about this topic, I want Dr. Marrow to please share just a little bit about yourself. How long you've been in the education field? What is your love? What is your passion? What keeps you going?
Hello, everyone. So my name is Dr. Carletta Marrow. My passion and my love is truly around the success of our children. I've been in education for 27 years now, and I know I don't look like it,
You don't.
but it has really been my passion to see the success of our young adults. I love our teenage age children. I always say to my family, I take them when they're able to walk and talk back, and not when they're in the Pampers and things. And so it's just really a joy for me to really give back to our community through education. And really, at this point in my career, I'm working closer with our adults. I supervise 30 high schools in Prince George's County Public Schools in Maryland, where there are 30 principals, as well as my office services, evening school, high schools, our non-traditional programs, our athletic programs. So there's a lot that encompasses my daily job, but my true passion is to help our young adults to grow and to live successfully in society.
That is super awesome. I definitely am super excited to have you here because you have the expertise. And as you were talking, it makes me think about why we even created Mental Moments in the first place. Because there's so many people who are struggling, and being someone who advocates for suicide prevention, there's 139 successful suicides every single day. And a lot of it is not because of what people have, is what they don't have. And a lot of people are out here without support. So to know that Dr. Marrow is actually providing that support, especially to educators who are over our children and our youth, is extremely everything. So as we prepare to get into this conversation, we do have a short commercial that we want to share at this time to segue into that dialogue. But get your questions ready, because we are about to have an amazing conversation with the educator extraordinaire herself, Dr. Marrow. So we want to thank y'all so much, and make sure you like, share, and subscribe.
Excuse me, you know the time?
Oh yeah, it's 3:12.
Okay. I like your hair.
Thank you.
I like your order. By the way,
Thank
sir,
you.
Why are you talking to her?
I just asked you for the time.
I told you not to talk to other girls.
Please, you do the same thing.
Always trying me.
I can't do nothing, bro. I asked her for the time, and you always playing, bro. Stop, stop. You always doing too much. That's what I'm talking about, bro. Stop.
Stop talking to other girls. I'm the only one you need to talk to. None of your
What I tell you about that?
What is wrong with you?
That's what I'm talking about. You always on me. You had a good time? Yeah. We can do that again next weekend.
Oh shit, who is that?
My boy. I mean, I don't know. I think it's a random number.
Okay. Yeah, so.
You have fun?
Yeah. Wait. Hold on. Are you serious right now?
This is my cousin.
Are you real serious right
My
now?
cousin.
I've never met this cousin before.
She my cousin. She flew in.
Oh, she your cousin.
Yes.
She your cousin. I'm pretty sure I
Yeah.
met all your family.
It's
Oh,
my
for me.
cousin. Stop. That's my cousin. Stop. People looking. That's my cousin. That's my cousin. Please. Look at that. That's your cousin.
Wow. So listen, our teens, our babies are experiencing all types of situations. Not when I was growing up, and I think earlier when I was talking to Dr. Marrow, and we were talking about how, like, even when I was teaching, the teens then are totally different than the teens that we have now. What have you seen the biggest difference with the teens that you were seeing down the hall and making them go to class and get out the hallways and get from under the bleachers and all that craziness? What's the difference that you've seen in our teens, Dr. Marrow?
So I think every generation we say the same thing. What's different? They probably said the same thing about our generation, right? However, now I think one of the biggest things that we're seeing is the respect for authority. Um, that is a big piece of the difference in what I see in the students then and now. That's one of the biggest things that you see, and it really has to do with societal norms and standards, from my perspective. And I must say tonight I'm speaking as Dr. Carletta Marrow, not on behalf of my job, but
Absolutely.
I truly believe that that's one of the biggest things that we're finding. I think the difference is also one of the biggest factors is the fact that social media versus non-social media. And I think that has really driven our teens and our society around the norms that we follow and a lot of what we see on social media. Because I must say, there are some great things about social media, just as what we're doing now. But in essence, a lot of the fake news and the fake things that we see, and children want to relive that. And so what we're seeing in the schoolhouse is they model a lot of what they see and what they think is real. And then what's also different is parenting. So where we had parents that were very supportive, I can think about even when I was growing up, my father believed everything the teacher said. Um, they were always right. You know, I was wrong. My mom was the opposite. Like, well, wait a minute, we got to hear both sides of the story. But now parents are coming in ready to fight and yell at teachers and just believe what their child has said, without getting the facts and things of that nature. So that piece around authority and understanding that you have someone in authority is really changing our society, and changing the norms in school. And so, of course, when you even watch television and you see what's going on in the news, a lot of the standards have changed around what I call the Y generation. You know, children, we've always explored and said, why do I have to do this, why do I have to do that?
Right.
But now they're just telling you, I'm not doing it, and it's no repercussions and consequences for some of the actions. And so it makes it harder for us as educators to really deal with the differences that we see. I think all children want to be loved and want structure, and they want guidance and they want rules, but sometimes it's very difficult because they only have rules for the 8 hours they're with us, and then they go home and there's no standard and no rules. And we really have seen a difference since COVID, and what that did to our children and learning the norms of just how to be a civil citizen.
Mm. And as you were talking, a lot of the times is a challenge because, of course, I'm more on the parent side than I am in the education side. But I do provide therapy to middle schoolers here in the local area. And the revolving theme is these kids are suffering emotionally. So where it may look like they just don't want to listen to authority or they just want to misbehave or whatever, the fake news that you were talking about on the media, that's their reality, really. And a lot of it is because their parents are emotionally unstable. Their parents need that support. So for me, I guess my wonder is, how do the education system um, plan to bring all of it together, where it's not just the teacher versus the parent or the parent versus the kid or whatever, but how can we all come together? Because I think all of us emotionally is drained. Parents are trying to figure things out. The teachers, like you said, I when I was in school, and I'm not that much older than these kids, we ain't taught during class time. I
Right.
remember when I became a substitute teacher, I was like, what y'all talking? Wait a minute. Like, what is this? So it's that space of, I think all of us emotionally need a level of support. And I'm wondering, what is the school system doing to try to mend that gap. 'Cause I think that is contributing to some of the behaviors that we're seeing in our students and even in the parents.
And so a lot of what we're doing is first educating our families around mental health. I think mental health, especially in our community, in the Black society, African American society, has been seen as not a norm. You know, if you say mental health, people are calling you crazy or seeing you differently. But it's really educating children and families around what is mental health and what is it truly manifesting in students when you talk about that emotional pieces. And so we have a lot of initiatives around mental health. We have mental health providers in our schools, various programs where you can access even online support from mental health providers. We're doing advisory lessons to really teach students how to be civil and how to cope in society, really focus on the SEL strategies and really implementing all of that social emotional learning to help our students. And then parenting, so we're helping our parents as well with resources around parenting, because some of that, again, is lost. And then how to deal with their child who's emotional, and the lack of things that have been embedded in the home, as well as, just teaching them how to be civil at all times. And so that's a lot of what we're doing within the school system and partnering with organizations to help us, to even understand it in a different way, from the lens through the bullying, through the lens of the social emotional support, all of these factors that are really hindering the students, and then really shifting how we do things in education. That's the biggest piece that we're seeing. We have to redesign and reframe our models of teaching. We have students who are on TikTok all day and the internet all day, and then we want to still be the sage on the stage and stand in front of them and teach, and get upset when they're not talking, or when they're talking and they want to be engaged. And so it's a lot of pieces of really trying to bring it back all together. And again, I'll say we learned a lot through COVID. And then now it's how do I now do the post-COVID child and giving them what they need, what they lost in that year or two in terms of instruction, as well as the academic side and the emotional side. So really trying to get our students back to understanding even rules and routines and just all of the things that, that build into that emotional side of learning and the world.
Got it.
Right,
Well,
because
we're gonna go to a break real quick. Tasha, I'm sorry. It's time for us to have a break.
Okay.
But when we come back, Tasha is going to guide the discussion on to carry out what we were just talking about, and also get into the topic today, which is the teen dating violence. So y'all continue to stay with us, like, share, subscribe, and we'll be right back in a moment.
Businesses, we are calling you. If you have a business that you would like to air on our show, please email us at mental.moments with 2 S's at gmail.com to advertise your business. During the month of February, this is season 2. We're launching season 2. So for the month of February, we can advertise or place your advertisement on our show for free. Again, mental.moments with 2 S's at gmail.com. Thank you. Oh, that was beautiful. I wonder who made that commercial.
It hasn't changed in 15 years.
Okay. Some things just don't change, Dr. Marrow. So we talked about, Dr. Marrow hit on a lot of great points. And Instagram, we thank you for joining. Shamika, I see you. Dr. Cool, I hear you. Thank you. You said this is dope. Hey, Chris, Right Design, my college buddy. Thank you for joining. Make sure y'all type in the comment field hashtag mental moments. We need to get those numbers up. Okay. So my Instagram family and friends, if y'all have any questions that you have for Dr. Marrow or almost Dr. Malira, please, or for myself, please put that in the comment field and we will try our best to answer the question online. If not, we will definitely put it in the comment field. But we were talking about how during the pandemic, the students and the children had very little structure, right? Because either we had to go back into the workplace while they were still home. So they had to kind of like do the schoolwork online, things of that nature. Then on top of that, we had social media wherein they have such shows as Baddies. I had no idea what that show was all about. My daughter told me about this show. I'm like, have you seen the show? Have
Yes.
either of you?
Ah, baddies.
Baddies. The show is called Baddies, something like that. Maddie would probably have to tell me, but it's just where it's a group of young women who may be in the industry of social media, influencers, dancers, whatever. They all get together. Like not too long ago, they were in Baltimore. Not too long ago, they were in DC. They go and they get on a bus and they rent a house, and then they sit and they talk about different things. But what ends up happening, Insta Jammy, it always ends in a fight. They say, well, we just want to discuss things and da 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 da. And 2 seconds later, and I'm like, what is this that we watching? Like, why? So what we're finding is our students, our children that we put on the bus, and like when I used to teach, I'd be like, parents, I hear you. But the same child you put on that bus is not the child that gets off the bus at school, or not even when they get on the bus. And if they pocket dial you, you're going to hear some things. Cursing and all this extra stuff. So social media kind of raised our children. They taught different things to our children. And so I heard Malara sometimes when Malara says, the parents and this and that, and I'm like, ooh, baby. Yes, there are parents that are not, that may have missed some skills. Okay, they may have some arrested development, right? But then you have those parents who have tried their due diligence along with grandparents and families and friends to raise their children in the best way that they can. But oftentimes, children don't want to be identified or don't want to put on the persona or what you're trying to teach them. They want to be the baddies. They want to be what the social media is saying that they should be. So my question is, how are we getting a handle on the bullying, the sexting, the exposing people on social media, and fighting via social media, bullying doing social media, the sexing and all of that? Like, how can we get a handle on it? Can we?
That's a great question. I think we've been trying to do some things to educate our students and our families just around just the violence, period. And some of this bullying and just negative behavior, it's about teaching them the right behavior. And what I say to parents is, really having a relationship with your child is one of the first steps. The next thing I say is to have conversations and open conversations with your child, and ensuring that also your child's friends, the families they're hanging around. Those are the things that I would say to our families to really start to ensure that you are still instilling in them, just as the Bible says, train up a child, because even when they go away from it, they know how to come back when you've trained them properly.
Right.
One of the things that's really hard and difficult around these cell phones, because that's the other piece, we want to use them as instructional tools. However, some of the sex texting, the bullying, the fights online, it's hard to prevent because children are who they are, and just as you explained that show, they're mimicking and following what they see others doing and thinking that that's a way of life. And so that's really, hard when you're saying to our families, when we start talking about the bullying, we're like, report it, pay attention to the change in behavior, because that's what ties it back in to, really trying to see what's going on. But really, when we say, can we stop it? The best thing is to teach them what's right and try our best to monitor and put things in place to prevent it, and creating these cultures in our schools around cultural responsiveness, connecting them to adults and connecting them to peer leaders. So that's worked a lot for us, because one of the things we found, and the research will tell you, is who do children listen to the most? Their peers. And so when we have our peer leaders and things like that to help our students to grow and understand, hey, I might be 11th grader, but I'm showing the ninth graders, this is what we do, this is how we do it, so really using the peer approach, building those relationships with teachers and adults in the building, really has helped to groom some of those students who are lost and finding ways to make them interested in the school setting. That one it used to be that these things didn't happen in school, it was away from school, but now it's happening everywhere, so really trying to build on how do we combat that with the children we're dealing with today.
But what they're doing now, I know here in North Carolina, they're going across the street to the grocery store and fighting. Right. So right. Is there something wherein, because I know up here they say even though it happened off campus, you still have to report it and they still are held accountable for those actions. Is that something that is also prevalent in?
Yes. So we're responsible for students from pillar to post is what I always call it. So the time you leave home and you get on that school bus to the time you get back home. So a lot of times students will say, hey, it didn't happen on campus and so forth. So we've done a lot of things also to do some community policing, to really help to enforce some things in the community and stay in touch with the police officers as well, to actually say to our students, they're watching, they're part of it, but that authority piece comes into play as well, that oftentimes they're not even afraid of the police anymore. So we've done a lot of things in the community to try to stop it, and just around educating is the big piece of helping our students to get involved in school, have the connections, and really teaching them coping skills and how to deal with things. So we're working again through diversion programs, so a lot of things to try to just really divert these behaviors. But some of it, as you said, can we control it? I would say I'm not sure we can control it all, but we definitely are doing our best to to really grow our children to be civil citizens. I'm going to always say that, to teach them that.
So we have this comment here by the notary lady. We want to say thank you for watching us on our YouTube channel. If you haven't subscribed yet, please do so. It says, I heard Dr. Marrow mention educating parents. Is the school system looking into offering classes for our young parents? From my experience, a parenting course is offered in college. However, some students don't make it to college. So is this something that can be taught at middle and high school level?
So we have some child parenting classes within the school system, but most of them are geared towards teen moms and things of that nature. However, we do parenting academies through various offices within our school system to help our parents with parenting, bringing in resources from social services, mental health providers and things of that nature to truly help with the parenting component. So there are different things that are built in for parents, and then also built in, as you stated, for those younger parents. With what we did, we found that we only had our daycare programs and parenting programs in a few of our high schools, and we normally target a lot of our high schools. But then we've actually changed our program paradigm to actually aid all of our students, whether they're middle school or high school, across the district. And so they do get parenting classes and support where we partner with social services to provide them with resources, money for daycare, and things of that nature.
Awesome. I do know here in the area, I was working with Norfolk Public Schools, and I was providing therapy to the parents. So being able to give them that mental health support. And then me being a millennial, sometimes having this conversation, it puts me in a weird space because I know the challenges of, the parents and kind of why we have these different issues. So to kind of come and bring all this together, recently, I was speaking at the Vision Driven 757 Youth Empowerment Conference for Entrepreneurship, and we had a parenting panel. And something that somebody said that was so imperative that brings the topic of discussion today was the lack of villages. Mm-hmm. We live in a time where everybody's in their own bubble, and because people are in their own, they're in their own bubble, the kids are the ones that are suffering. And then we ask, well, why do they get into these relationships that these individuals are violent towards them? And it's because it fills them up. It literally fills them up to the point where it's filling a part of them that they do not have. So when we're talking about domestic violence and we're talking about violence in general, it's never about what I do have. I can have two parents. I can have no parent. I can have grandma. I can have money, no money. It doesn't matter. But if I don't know who I am and I don't have my own value, my own worth, then I'm going to settle for the thing that makes me feel safe in that moment. And what people don't understand is Maslow hierarchy of needs. At the bottom, it says food, shelter, water, and then we're just going to call it relationships is down there. And then you have safety and belonging. You don't feel safe because your environment is safe. You feel safe because you feel like you belong in said environment. So if that person is making you feel like you belong in that space because they listen to you when you need to be listened to, because they take you out, they spend time with you, then at times they say, well, it's okay if you abuse me emotionally and mentally. And then sometimes it's also depends on the vision that they see. So if I come home and I see that my mother or my father is experiencing this abuse, they begin to think that it's okay. And then again, you take into social media. Social media shows us, like you were just talking about that baddie video, that every conversation ends with a boom, boom, pow. And that's how we're supposed to, relate. So when we're talking about this topic, I want us to truly talk about it in a way where it's like these kids are finding things to fill their voids. And the more we talk about, well, this generation, that generation, the more there's going to be a gap in between, because the kids are like, okay, well, why y'all trying to figure out the difference between the generations? I still got to live. I still got to show up. And guess who's showing up? That person that shows me they love me sometimes, but then they hate me most of the time. So I do want us to talk about that topic. We're going to do another brief break in a moment. But when we come back, we really want to get into the topic of how does teen dating violence manifest in the school system, and how can us as a community come together to decrease this problem amongst our youth?
You could be a spectacular pastor. You know how to get the hearts and the likes, but can you change a life, son?
Our church is thriving because of me.
It's time for the big announcement.
I'm so excited that you had a chance to join me today. We're about to be blessed.
I'm here to announce and introduce you all to the new pastor, someone who is my spiritual son, Pastor Cleophas Patterson.
I'm your real son. You think you can take this from me? Let's call every church and let them know I am ready to take over their ministry. Now's the time. You take over Potter's house. Let me take over Denver. Send me to Chattanooga. Plant me in Chattanooga. They say that's New Atlanta. Put some drum rolls in the comments right now. God is moving me in my ministry to Lubbock, Texas.
Looks like you figured it out.
I give it a month.
You are the man of the house. You are not to call me for any reason. If it gets that bad, you take it to God.
I'm the pastor's new senior consultant.
New pastor's what now?
Titles aren't important. I'm really just here to ease the burden.
Funerals can be so hard. I want an open casket.
But if it's open, people gonna be able to see him in there.
Yes, yeah.
He gonna be dead. If we could bow our heads and oh, Jesus.
You sure your daddy was wrong about you?
Relationships are about give and take. Well, do you even know what it is she's asking me to do?
I want my husband to close his eyes and with a giving heart, I want him to eat my... Amen. Give God praise. Hallelujah.
You're going to hell.
Oh, well, no time to go back now. Amen.
Wow, that was good. That was a great commercial.
We are super duper excited about Churchy coming up on BET Plus. Our producer, Cletus Cassidy, is in there. So the husband that, they had to bleep out a little bit, that was him, y'all. So we want to make sure that we give him his kudos, because we could not be doing this show the way that we are right now without him.
Absolutely.
So thank you so much. So please make sure you check it out. February 15th is when it will be ready to be streamed. So Tasha, I'm going to kick it to you, as we got some amazing questions to continue this conversation with Dr. Marrow. And there's a question here at the bottom, but Tasha, you got it.
Thank you so much, Malara. The question is, how big of a problem is teen dating violence? Well, we gave some stats up in the beginning of the show. 19% of teens are experience sexual or physical abuse, dating violence, and about half of them face like stalking and harassments and many other types. So it's very prevalent. And if you have a child, or if you know of children, and you see it on the news all day long, just like last week in Raleigh, North Carolina, a young boy, a middle schooler, was being bullied in school. Um, he had shared with with his family as well, with the administrators at the school, and it didn't stop. And the next time he came to school, he stabbed the bully to death. And so it's just those situations that we just don't want to see happen, because now it's just like, as a child, he tried. Like, he tried to ward off the violence. He tried to not listen to the bullying. But it's like, what happens when things of that nature happens? Because then it's just like, what kind of future will this young boy have? Also, Dr. Merrill talked about, or either Malara, because my memory is a little, about attention. Any attention that they're getting, because oftentimes parents, we're busy because of recession or because of the society, the things that we also have on our plate. Sometimes we don't listen to our kids, or we don't know the signs to look for, because we too are also busy, or we too may have, emotional issues that we have to get assistance with. But oftentimes the younger generation associate violence with love.
Mm-hmm.
So it's kind of like, what do you say? They think that that's love. They think if you fight for me, and I think, or when what's his name? The so controversial. What's the comedian that just did?
Cat Williams.
Cat Williams.
He said that men love toxic women. Like, men and people, kids love toxicity. They think that that's a sign of love. So Malira and also Dr. Merrill, what are some things that signs that we can tell that maybe our child may not be in the best emotional state, or if they are being bullied, or if they may have had some type of sexual trauma? Like, what are some signs that we can look for?
So, and I'll let the doctor up there, the expert, but I think some of the signs, first and foremost, is when you see change, when you see a drop in grades, when you see different behaviors, and new friends, and you really want to pay attention to the change of behaviors from your child. Sometimes they show it again through the grades. Sometimes they show it through what they're eating, what they're watching. Withdrawal, that shows up through depression and anxiety, and so a lot of those things will show up in just how they respond even to you at home. When you start seeing they just want to go to their room by themselves, and so that trauma shows up in so many ways. And so I think it's so important for you to pay attention and not ignore it. This whole notion of, I go in my room and I close my door, instead of us sitting down eating dinner together, and those things that are not the norm in some households anymore. You really want to pay attention to those signs. And are they sitting around on the phone, Instagram, texting the same person all the time as well? So that's some of the signs that we definitely are seeing. And when the parent comes to the school, we immediately can say to them, oh, they've been hanging with so-and-so, but at home, they don't often know that change has occurred. When we're like, oh, you didn't know they had a boyfriend? You didn't know they had a girlfriend? You're like, ooh, but actually I leave the signs to show up differently for everyone.
So I'm going to try to do this without it being a lot, because I have a lot of stuff going on in my head. So I'm going to caveat it with that. And I want to answer two of the questions. So the signs of the trauma, but then how big of a problem this is. It is such a huge problem, and there's going to be a lot of people that's going to try to cancel me after this, but just listen to the whole thing. I promise you. Parents need to start being their kids' best friend. listen to me. We are really big on saying, I'm not my kid's friend, but then I always ask parents, so what is your definition of a friend? My definition of a friend is when there's anything that changed, my kid's going to come and talk to me. My kid is going to tell me when they're struggling. They're going to come to me about any of the questions that they have about life. They're not going to go to YouTube. They're going to come to mommy. They're not going to go to social media. They're going to come to mommy. But we have this mindset of this dictatorship, authoritatorship. I'm going to tell you how to live, how to do. So then the kids are looking for a space to just be themselves. So then they don't come to us. So then we're not going to see the signs. We're not going to know what's wrong because we don't have an open door policy. We have a do what you're told, do what I say. And it's really hard because we have literally debunked this sense of I'm not your buddy. But how can I not be your buddy and not really know what's going on? And that is perpetrating a lot of this trauma that's happening because now I don't have a safety net with my parent. My parent is just going to tell me, don't talk to me right now. My parent's going to tell me I don't have enough time to deal with this right now. Oh, you want a boyfriend, a girlfriend? How old are you? Okay, you got to wait till you're 16 until you're 45. My first boyfriend, I remember being in kindergarten holding his hand at the planetarium. So it's one of them spaces where we have to redefine the parent and child relationship. If you don't feel comfortable saying that y'all friends, find another term. But I want to be my kid's safe place because if I am their safe place and they come to me as their safety net, when they stop coming to me, then I know that's a sign that something's going on. Then I know that they're getting it filled somewhere else. Signs of trauma. So people don't understand trauma is not just this one worded thing. It is anything that causes you to be stuck in a moment, whether that's stuck in your thought, stuck in your body, or just stuck in your life. And the way that it is manifested is not just the big T. So it's not just the domestic violence, sexual abuse and assault, war, and things like that. Sometimes that trauma comes from the fact that when I go home, I ain't got no food to eat. And I don't know about y'all, but I just saw somebody post a video of school pizza. I don't know what the ham sandwich they eating at the schools, So we have to understand that the kids have so many more other things that they're dealing with. So when you begin to see, like Dr. Marrow said, the changes in their behavior is for two things. It's to communicate something, and it's also to get something. So if your child behavior is starting to change and you don't recognize them, don't just scoot underneath the rug, be like, oh, they're just being a teenager. No, sit them down and say, hey, what's up? Also tell them your story. One thing about it is I remember when I started telling my mom about my traumas and being sexually assaulted when I was in high school and all these things, my story replicated hers when it didn't need to. If she had a conversation with me and told me, hey, this is why I'm telling you to do this, look out for X, Y, and Z. There are sometimes our kids are repeating our patterns because we're so afraid to show them that we're human. I had to have a conversation with my daughter when she was 5 to tell her why she couldn't wear no mid-dress shirt because I said, hey, when I was 3 years old, there was some play that mommy didn't like and I don't want you to experience that. She was 5. No matter how much people would look against me for that, but she had to understand. So I think it's this thing where we have to, one, redefine the relationship between parent and child. And then two, when we're looking at signs, the biggest one is the changes. And if I have a real good relationship with them, when they stop talking to me, it's not just because they're a teenager. They're stopped talking to you because they filled that void with something, somebody, or something else. And we need to be able to be aware of that change.
Okay. Those are really great points. However,
yeah, that's what I said. That's how we do this together, girl. Go ahead.
With your Instagrammy, look, we're gonna replay this, y'all. Instagram. We're gonna replay this when Malira's son and daughter turns 13. She's gonna be calling us, y'all, because I see up here it says I was writing some things down. Friend/parent. And yes, my parents said, ain't your friend. I'm not here to be your friend. I'm here to be your parent. And yeah, and it was some things I probably missed, I turned out okay. But yes, we do need to redefine our relationships with our children. Yes. However, I can speak from only my experience and maybe some people, my relatives that I know, their situations. You could be that parent. Like me, for an example, I am very open and transparent as it relates to all different types of relationships, whether it's a male and male and female, whatever. And because I used to talk to my daughter about these different things. Like we would have these conversations riding in the car. I felt like, be a safe place for us to discuss things. And she would say, oh, no. Everything I would try to, let's talk a little bit about sex, and nope, I'm not doing, nope. And then later on down the line, I would say, well, I tried to have these conversations with you. And my daughter would say, well, I did not feel comfortable. And I say, but why? Your cousins felt comfortable. And I said, and this is a part, parents, I think that we could say to our children, because I try to be as transparent as I can with my daughter, with my children rather. But I say, just like it's hard for you to adjust to a news that I may be saying to you, give me a moment to process what it is that you're telling me. So if your child may come up to you and say, in discussing or going through their phone or going through their email or whatever, the social media feeds and all of that, and if we see maybe they might like the same sex, so maybe they're doing this or that. Once you find out that information, you have to say to your kids, let me process this too, just like some news that I may have to share with you, but give me a moment, because at the end of the day, I am also human too. The other thing, going back to parents, because of how social media is, we are saying, I don't, like, even if you ban your children from their cell phone, that don't matter. Because they go into the computer, to the television. And as a parent, and I thought I was technically savvy, all of that. They got so many vaults they have on their phones. It's so hard for us to try to catch up with how our children are still communicating on social media. So parents, don't be mad at Malira, okay? When her kids,
I'm used to it, but the reason why I do advocate that way is because I throw the word friend out, because I know it's going to rub people the wrong way. As soon as a parent here be your child friend, they automatically want to throw it away. But I'm saying it specifically because we've been doing it the same way for so long, and each generation is getting more lost. And I am sitting here with a 7-year-old and a 5-year-old that I have to sit here like, am I going to continue to keep it the same way to say, nope, I ain't going to be your friend, I'm just going to be your parent? No, I eventually got to say, listen, we are losing our children. How can we shift this conversation where I can actually be present, where I can actually sit here and have a conversation with my child so they don't have to deal with violence. They don't have to default to, fulfilling certain things. So for me, trust me, I get it. I know my kids are going to be teenagers one day and rub me the wrong way, but here's the piece of it. Malira is real. Look, I was busting it wide open at 13. So for me, I'm like, I wish somebody was having a conversation to say, hey, how are you emotionally? And sometimes it might not be the parent. And it goes back to that village conversation. You need to have a strong village around you. So for example, I'm going through a divorce right now, and my daughter had a hard moment today because I had to go do something before here. My mom, my village was able to talk to her and try to figure out, like, baby girl, what's going on? My daughter didn't tell me what she told my mom, but I got a good enough village that somebody is talking to my kids. Right now, people don't have a village because, let's be real, don't no grandparent want to be grandma. They want to be Mima, grandma, Gigi mama, whatever they want to be. And then they have 2, 3, 4, 5 jobs. So how can they show up and be a village? You got the granddaddy out here doing whatever. The generation's divorced. It's like everybody's doing their own thing. But again, who's suffering? The kids. So when I throw a term out like friend, I want to shift your perspective, because I'm going to talk to my best friend every day. So if I talk to my best friend every day and my child's my best friend, I'm going to make it a habit to talk to my child every day to see, even if they tell me nothing's wrong, I'm still going to keep checking in. I'm going to still know who their friends are. I'm going to still talk to their teachers. So even though their teacher snuck and told me they got a little boo-boo down the street that they talking to, I may not say anything, but now I have this village for my kid because I have the mindset that they are a best friend. They're somebody I'm going to die for. Not just this kid that I have this dictatorship and lordship over, but a kid that I actually genuinely am going to care. So that's why I throw that term out when I work with parents. And a lot of times it throws them off guard. But I said, think about it. If your parent actually sat down and treated you like a best friend, like that uncle so-and-so that used to come over, like that auntie so-and-so that used to come over, how much better would your relationship have been with your parent?
Well, so what happens? So this is the fine line that I think, because I saw someone made a comment, said they kind of understand where you're coming from, and then they also understood. I agree with some of what Malira said, but I also understand what she said. Is that she me or she her?
It's relationship. It's the relationship.
Right, that's the thing.
It,
and so
it translates into relationship. And
that's
what is
right.
relationship with the parent and the child, and what's the line? So when we say friend, and I think people take it as developing a friend, but the relationship is the key component in how, if you want them to love, you got to treat them with love. If you want them to communicate, you have to communicate with them. They have to see that in the home. So we have to demonstrate what we want to manifest in our children. And that's the piece. So, so I understand clearly what you're saying, but I think when we think about that, friendship is about the relationship that you have with your children, and that you put in place in your home, where there is communication, where there is the love and the sharing, that everyone feels comfortable to do that, So I grew up in the era of you do what I say, not what I do, so it's a little different.
Right. And so Malira, so when Dr. Marrow, so when you talked about the relationship, that is so true, because we could say friendship or my kid is my best friend and things of that nature. But what oftentimes happen when the children hear friend, then they don't understand the boundaries, because yes, my child can be my friend, but there are boundaries. And what happens when there aren't those boundaries, wherein here's the adult, here is the child, then those lines are crossed with the respect. So it's like, hey girl, this, that type thing. Or they could just say and do whatever, or they feel like they can curse and so therefore you have, as a parent, we have to, it's so hard, parents, and we understand this, because guess what? There's so many manuals out there, but every single child is different. Just like my oldest is different than my second child, and my second child is different than my youngest. And I'm just like, Lord, why would you give me, the youngest at this time, at the bottom? Because mommy is old, she's older, and her patience is not as good. So what we're all saying, everybody, because we're about to end in about 4 minutes. This has been an awesome conversation, and we need to have this conversation more often. But what we're saying is, understand your child. Take the time to understand your child. Take the opportunity to be transparent with your child, sharing with them some of the mistakes that you've made. The age appropriateness of the conversation, what that is, and how and what to convey to your child. Therapy, just like you get your hair done every 2 weeks, just like you get your oil change. Therapy should be just like that. It should be something that you set up and have at your disposal. So you don't want to catch up. You just want to be steady. And so you don't want to have to try to prepare yourself for, you don't want to have to work behind the curveball. If we go ahead and start these sessions now, the therapy sessions now, the conversations now with your children, instead of trying to play catch up, because now is the time to save our children. And one moment can change the trajectory of your life and your child's life. Absolutely. Dr. Marrow, did you have anything else to share with us before we end on this evening? And then, of course, I know Malira, you want to share something.
I was going to say, we have one more break. So when we come back, we're going to get Dr. Marrow's last sentiments. And if you guys have any last questions or comments, please make sure that you post them so we can address them. But we have a last break and we'll be back.
Businesses, we are calling you. If you have a business that you would like to air on our show, please email us at mental.moments with 2 S's at gmail.com to advertise your business. During the month of February, this is season 2. We're launching season 2. So for the month of February, we can advertise or place your advertisement on our show for free. Again, mental.moments with 2 S's at gmail.com. Thank you. This has been awesome. It's been very informative. Dr. Marrow, thank you so much for joining us this evening. I know you're extremely busy, but I knew that you would have a wealth of knowledge to share with us. So any last words for our audience? Thank you, Ashley.
So I think as we talk about this issue of domestic violence for our teens, I think it's I think we definitely have to provide our teens with resources. And so, I think about the National Domestic Violence Hotline, and giving them the tools that they need. So I think we just have to continue. Number one, I'm going to always say pray for our society and our youth and what's going on today. But I also say to give them the tools that are necessary to show them the love, the respect, and the self-love and the self-respect that's needed to just survive in society today. Because again, as we've talked about tonight, if they don't get it from us as the adults, they'll get it from someone. And that's what they're looking for in much of these relationships that they're developing that causes some of the emotional and mental distress. So just want to stress to everyone to make sure that you're building those relationships and paying attention to your children daily and giving them that love and attention from you before they get it from someone else. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Malara, did you have anything else?
Only thing I will say is we have to dare to do things differently. I know that I'm a radical, but I do it because I genuinely want to save the generation that's coming in after me, especially because I'm a mother to 2 young children. So as we're talking about this topic, we have to think about ways to think outside of the box to gain our kids' attention. Because a lot of it is they want to feel like they're valued. They want to feel like they're enough. And if they don't feel that way, they're going to continue to default to those things that are less healthy. So the way that we do that is just being aware of our own stories as parents, as educators, as adults. Go back to when we were their age and think about the things that we struggled with that we may have not talked to our parents about, and realize that our kids is dealing with that plus some, because they have access to knowledge that we did not have. You can Google now how to hurt people. You can Google now how to hurt yourself. So they have access to things that we didn't quite have, that it was in our imagination. Now it's their reality. And because it's their reality, we have to shift it by doing things differently. So I just charge everyone for all of us to come together, get educated about trauma, get educated about domestic violence, know the resources that's in your area. And to the people that are in the schools, I see your hard work. I know here in Virginia, we actually have the behavioral health initiative with some money that we're trying to get some mental health stuff into the school to really help our children know who they are. So just kudos to everyone who is on the plight of trying to save our young people so that we don't have traumatized adults anymore.
Thank you so much, Malara. So we want you to tune in next Wednesday night at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And next week, y'all, it's Valentine's Day, right? You already know it's Valentine's Day. And we have Dr. Evans. He, too, is from Maryland. And the topic next week will be love and lust. Love and lust. So we're going to talk about all things love and lust, and everything else in between. So please come back and join us next Wednesday night at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Thank you again for joining us for another mental moment. You have a great evening. Thank you again for watching.